Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And Blizzard is doing something they have never done before when it comes to Dragonflight Season 4. They are letting you decide what set bonuses are going to be available in this final Fated season, as we are going to be revisiting older raids in past seasons. They're going to be bringing back potentially some of the older set bonuses as well, allowing us to vote on them. I will have the link in the description down below. Now, one major problem with this voting system, which I'm going to solve in this video today, is that they don't tell you what the set bonuses are. They just say season 1, season 2, season 3, and if you don't remember, I don't really remember. It's kind of hard to decide what you want to vote for. So in today's video, we're going to be going over all of the set bonuses that are available so you can make the right choice for your gameplay moving forward into Dragonflight Season 4. So let's jump in. I've got the Warrior logged in right now. We are looking at the arm specialization. So our current set bonus, which is Rend does 30% more damage, and sudden death can be triggered by Rend's bleed effect, and then sudden death executes will thunderclap and apply Rend. This set bonus is honestly so fun and so OP that I don't really want to see it go away. But let's see what the other set bonuses are just in case. For the season 2, this was season 3, by the way. For season 2, we've got Deep Wounds increases your chance to critically strike and critical strike damage dealt to afflicted targets by 5%. That's boring. I don't like that. Deep Wounds critical strikes have a chance to increase the damage of your next mortal strike by 10% and cause it to deal 10,000 physical damage to enemies in front of you, stacking up to 3 times, so up to 30% increased mortal strike damage. Performance on this is not going to be as good as Season 3, I think, and it's honestly kind of boring for Season 2. So for me, this one's getting a no. I'm definitely not voting for the Season 2 one for Arms Warrior. For Season 1, we have Mortal Strike and Cleave damage and chance to critically strike increased by 10%. That's, again, kind of really boring. 4 set bonus, Mortal Strike, Cleave, and Execute critical strikes. Increase your damage and critical strike chance by 5% for 6 seconds. Season 1 Arms Warrior is boring and bland. Season 2 Arms Warrior, boring and bland. Looks like we're probably, at least I'm going to be voting for Season 3 Warrior for Arms here, because this one is the most fun set bonus and does big poggy damage. So I'm definitely voting Season 3 for Arms. Let's go hop over onto the Fury specialization and take a gander at what set bonuses were available for it. Although I am starting to think that Season 3 is probably going to be the strongest. Season 3 for the Arms, or for the Fury Warrior, we got to change this. Oh, we can just change this back. We don't have to respec. We can just do that. We have technology here. Odin's Fury deals 50% increased damage and causes your next 3 Bloodthirst to deal 150% increased damage and have a 100% increased critical strike chance. Bloodthirst will reduce the cooldown of Odin's Fury by 2.5 seconds. And this has been also one of the most fun set bonuses that I've played with so far for Fury. So Season 3 is looking like a pretty good sell here for Fury as well. But let's look at Season 2. Rampage damage and critical strike chance increased by 10%. That is boring. Rampage causes your next Bloodthirst to have a 10% increased critical strike chance, deal 25% increased damage, and generate 2 additional rage, stacking up to 10 times. So this can lead into the big one-tap Bloodthirst, whereas this is going to be more consistent damage throughout the game. I don't really like that gameplay where you're only going for one big hit. I just like having big hits all the time. So Season 2 is, it's not selling me here in terms of the power for the set bonus. For Season 1, we've got Execute chance to critically strike increased by 25%. Again, meh. Sudden death chance to reset the cooldown of Execute and make it usable on any target, regardless of health, is greatly increased. Again, Season 1 Fury, Season 2 Fury set bonuses, not really jumping off the page. I'm voting Season 3 when it comes to Fury Warrior. I want you to make your own mind up, but these Season 1 and Season 2 seem really boring to me. Season 3 has just been really fun, which is a little bit unfortunate because we're just going to be carrying forward the same set bonus that we've got here from Season 3. For Prot Warrior, we have Spending Rage has a chance to cause your next Shield Slam to consume your bleeds on a target, instantly dealing 40% of the remaining damage of your Deep Wounds and Rend and 100% of your Thunderous Roar, and reducing your damage taken by 10%. For each bleed effect consumed from a target, your damage taken is reduced by an additional 2%. When Shield Slam consumes a bleed, the cooldown of Thunderclap is reset, and the cooldown of Thunderous Roar is reduced by 30 seconds. That honestly seems like a really fun set bonus, interacting with your rotation in a different way. So how is Season 2 and Season 1 going to compete with this? Season 2, Shield Slam just does 15% increased damage and reduces the cooldown of Last Stand by 2 seconds. During Last Stand, these effects are doubled. So Gonna get big shield slam hits. This is looking a little bit more interesting than the other for your set bonuses so far. For 20 seconds after last stand ends, shield slam unleashes a wave of force, dealing 31,000 physical damage to enemies in front of you and reducing the damage they deal to you by 5%. Definitely a more competitive set bonus when it comes to Season 3 versus Season 2. Let's see what Season 1 is. Season 1, Revenge grants you Vanguard's Determination, increasing your damage done and reducing damage you take by 4% for 5 seconds. During Vanguard's Determination, gain Ignore Pain equal to 5% of the damage you deal. So you get a really big stacking up shield. Now, obviously, I'm looking at this from like a perspective of doing damage and not really, mitigating damage when it comes to prot. And I don't really play it. So again, my opinion on this is probably not going to be as correct when it comes to PvE. So if you're a PvE prot warrior, let me know. But the bleed rotation seems way more fun to me mechanically from Season 3. So it's looking like if I was going to vote for warrior, and I'm going to vote for Fury and Arms for prot, probably going to leave it up to you guys that actually play this spec as opposed to vote for something that I'm probably not going to try. But I'm leaning into Season 3 is probably the best for prot. Let's log into some of the other classes. We got quite a lot of classes to cover. Let's look at Druid next. We got 4 specializations on this with 3 seasons each of set bonuses to inspect and gander upon. Now, they did say in the notes that they would be willing to buff previous set bonuses to be more competitive, but a lot of them are just like flat stats, not really interesting in terms of changing a rotation. So if they're all buffed to be equal, I'd rather have something that's more interesting. For Resto Druid, of course, we've got you and your Grove Guardians Nourishes now heal 2 additional allies at 40% effectiveness. Consuming Clear Casting now causes your regrowth to also cast Nourish onto a nearby injured ally at 200% effectiveness. This has been one of the most powerful set bonuses ever introduced into the game. So it's going to be really tough, I think, for Season 2 and Season 1 to compete with Resto Druid Season 3. Rejuvenation and Life Limb Healing increased by 10%. Regrowth Healing over time increased by 35%. Flourish increases the rate of your heal over time effects by 26% for an additional 16 seconds after it ends. And Verdant Infusion causes your Swift Men to gain 15% increased healing from you for 6 seconds. Now, that is a more fun single target way to heal. Not going to be super competitive in PvE, and I don't think it's going to ever compete with this one in PvP. I don't even know how much you'd have to buff that to compete with Season 3. So Season 2, not really looking that great. Not terrible, but not that great. Season 3 set bonuses, Rejuvenation, Life Limb, Wild Growth, and Efflorescence and Tranquility chance to critically heal is increased by 8%. Those are really boring. Efflorescence critical heals increase the healing of your next Wild Growth, but stacking up to 5 times. Life Bloom critical heals reduce the cooldown of your Nature Swiftness, so some CDR around Nature Swiftness. Ain't no way this is competing with Season 3 set bonus. If you're a competitive player, you got to be voting for Season 3 when it comes to Resto Druid. These are not competitive enough and not interesting enough for Resto, honestly, to grab them for me. Balanced Druid, now this is my main specialization. This set bonus, in PvP at least, I have not even been using the 4-piece, but that's been the same for some other seasons as well. So the 2-piece is kind of fun. You get some fast casted spells to enter Eclipse, and they increase the damage of their spells, but the 4 set bonus takes too long to stack in PvP and ends up falling off, and I've not really liked it relative to the other set bonuses. This may, in fact, be the first time where I'm not really interested in the Season 3 set bonus on one of the classes so far. For Season 2, we had Sunfire and Moonfire radiuses increased. Just Sunfire radius increased by 3 yards. Sunfire, Moonfire, and Shooting Stars do 20% more damage, and Shooting Stars has a 20% chance to instead call down a Crashing Star, which will deal additional damage. Now, this was the one I was using the Starfall build a lot and having a lot of fun, but the set bonus was honestly, I don't even think I was running the 4-piece. So again, this one, I wasn't even running the 4-piece, but this was a really fun Starfall season, which I think was more fun for me personally than this one. Season 1, Star Surge and Starfall increase the damage of your next Wrath and Starfire stacking by 20%, stacking up to 3 times. When you enter Eclipse, your next Star Surge or Starfall costs 5 less Astral Power and deals 20% increased damage. So Season 1 is going to be the most competitive one for sure. This is going to give you a lot of single target damage on your Starfires, and when you enter Eclipse, it's going to allow you to pump out a lot more Star Surges and do a lot more damage with those Star Surges. So for me personally, I think I'm kind of leaning to voting Season 1 if I'm thinking the most competitive here for Balanced Druid. And this is the first time, actually, I think on a spec so far that we're, at least I'm going to be voting for a different season. So Boomkin, we're voting for Season 1 at least. On my part, let's take a look here at Feral Druid. Feral Druid's set bonus this season has been absolutely crazy. Feral Frenzy grants Smoldering Frenzy, increasing all damage you deal by 20%. And then Feral Frenzy's cooldown is reduced by 15 seconds. During Smoldering Frenzy, enemies burn for 10% additional damage you deal as fire. So you're just getting fire bleeds. Feral Frenzy is super powerful spell when it comes to PvP. Your Season 2 bonuses, your auto attacks have a 25% chance to grant Shadows of the Predator, increasing your agility by 1%. Each application past 5 has an increasing chance to reset to 2 stacks. When Shadows of the Predator application resets stacks, you gain 8% increased agility and you generate 1 combo point every 2 seconds for 8 seconds. That seems really complicated to me, but again, I don't play Feral Druid, so any Feral Druids in the comments below that want to let me know, season 3 to season 2, what you think. For season 1, Ferocious Bite and Rip deal 6% additional damage. That is really boring. For each combo point spent, finishing moves increase your Rip, Rake, and Thrash damage by 2%, and increase the chance for Shred, Rake, Swipe, and Thrash to critically strike. This just seems really, season 1 seems really boring. Feral Druid seems like a pretty easy sell right now for me, at least, being season 3, but season 2 might be competitive with how much main stat you might be getting from this, especially with how high our main stat is going to be. You think about how high our item level is going to be, 8% agility, it could be a lot. So this one's the first one that's not really like a clear 100%, at least to me, but I would probably lean towards voting for season 3 for Feral. For Guardian Druid, the Rage of the Sleeper set bonuses are definitely really powerful, at least when it comes to PvP. Rage you spend during Rage of the Sleeper fuel the growth of the Dream Thorns, which are just going to basically give you thorns that does damage back to everybody. Each 40 Rage you spend while Rage of the Sleeper is active extends its duration by 1 second up to 5, and your Dream Thorns become Blazing Thorns, causing 100% of the damage absorbed to be reflected to the attacker. So there's really big Thorns damage. But I remember it was either season 1 or season 2 that was really OP for Guardian when it came to PvE. Was it season 2? PvE Guardian, you have to let me know. 2 set bonus: when you take damage, Mangle and Thrash damage and rage generation are increased by 15%. That seems pretty good. And you heal for 6% of the damage over 8 seconds. Maul damage increased by 20%, and casting Iron for a Maul increases your maximum health by 3%. So this seems like the first one that might be competitive. This one's a lot of AoE damage, which I'm sure Mythic Plus is going to love. This one's more single target oriented. And season 1, using Mangle with Gore also deals 30% of the damage dealt to nearby enemies. Damage reduced beyond 5 targets. It also increases your damage done and reduces damage you take by 5%. Gore has a 5% increased chance to trigger. Using Mangle with Gore heals you for 24,000 over 5 seconds. Honestly, this is the first one that's not automatically drawing me into one particular one of these. I personally would vote for season 3. But I know if you're a competitive Druid player for Guardian for PvE, one of these, season 1 or season 2, was really OP. So you're probably going to want to go for that. So we've covered Resto, Guardian, Feral, and Balance, and it's looking like a lot of season 3. Let's log on to the next class here and continue covering them all. We've got Priest, which is 3 specializations to go over for 3 seasons, as we are going to be deciding and voting for which set bonuses are the most powerful, which ones are the most interesting to you to try and go after. So this is the purpose of the video. Let's take a look here. This is not the right tab to open. We've got item set bonuses for Holy. This current season has been absolutely crazy, and I really regret not having the 4-piece yet because I've been playing Disc a lot. But Holy Word Serenity applies 18 seconds of Renew to its target, so just free heal over time application. Holy Word Sanctify also applies Renew, which is really good. And then your 4-piece bonus is Renew's Healing has a chance to cause your next Holy Word Sanctify or Holy Word Serenity to not consume a charge when cast and cost 50% less mana, accumulating up to 2 charges. That 4-piece, really good. I don't know how season 2 and 1 are going to compete with Holy Priest season 3. When you cast Prayer of Mending, there's a 35% chance its effect is duplicated to another ally. Could be crazy in raid for AoE healing. When Prayer of Mending jumps or expires, it increases the damage and healing of your next Holy Word by 4%, second to 15 times. Honestly, a very interesting set bonus. I don't think it's more competitive than season 3, but at least when it comes to PvP, but it's definitely more interesting than a lot of the other previous season 1 and 2s. Season 1, casting Prayer of Mending reduces the cast time of your next healer Prayer of Healing by 1 second and increases their Holy Word cooldown reduction effects by 2 seconds. When Holy Word Serenity or Holy Word Sanctify finish their cooldown, you gain 10% increased critical strike for 6 seconds. These are actually all pretty interesting set bonuses. Again, we're coming into one that's actually pretty difficult to vote. If I had to vote in terms of initial gut feeling, I think these free charges of Serenity are probably going to be the strongest, with the free applications of Renew probably going to be the best. So I would vote for season 3 if I was a Holy Priest. But I could see this Prayer of Mending gameplay being pretty fun. And then it's cooldown reduction oriented, but this one's just RNG. This one's gonna be a bit more manual, but you're not gonna get them all the time when you need them. You might get. I'm thinking season 3 for Holy Priest here right now. Looking at Discipline, currently I don't play the 4-piece. If you're running a Shadow Covenant, you obviously do. But the 2-piece, Smite and Penance damage increased by 20%, and Smite extends your active atonements by 2 seconds, which has been really good mechanically. I really like that mechanic, but again, I don't run Shadow Covenant, so the 4-set bonus, Smite has a 100% chance to cast an additional time during Shadow Covenant, dealing 28,000 shadow damage. If you are a Shadow Covenant player, the 4-piece is really good. The 2-piece is good enough on its own that I would honestly vote for this, even still with me only using the 2-piece. For season 2, though, we have Shadow Word Pain damage increased by 25%, Power Word Radiance healing increased by 15%, and atonements applied by Power Word Radiance last 3 seconds longer. Your spells have a chance to cause your next Power Word Radiance to be instant and cost 50% less mana and can accumulate 2 charges. So this is actually very competitive. Both of these are great throughput for Disc Priest. I would honestly lean towards season 2 for Disc Priest. But let's see what season 1 has to offer, though. Season 1, Powered Shield increases the effectiveness of your next direct damage or healing spells by 10%. Nah. Penance increases the strength of your next Powered Shield by 60% of the damage or 18% of its healing. Honestly, these set bonuses are a lot more interesting between the 3 of them. They all seem pretty good. I don't really like the 4-piece of this one, but I do like the extension of the Atonement. But I'm kind of leaning season 2. I feel like these free Radiance charges and just more throughput on your Purge the Wicked and more Radiance healing in general. But Powered Shields have been really strong. So this season 1 with Powered Shield could be really good as well. This is a really tough one. I'm leaning into season 2, though, at least when it comes to PvP. I'm leaning into voting for season 2 for Discipline Priest. For Shadow, we have Shadow where death triggers 2 additional times at 15% effectiveness. Triggers again 1 additional time at 15% effectiveness if Death Speaker is active or your target is below 20% health. Each time you take damage from Shadow where death, gain a stack of Death's Torment, increasing the initial damage of your next cast of Shadow where Pain by 225%, or increasing the damage of your next Shadow Crash by 50%, stacking up to 12 times. Now in PvP, I haven't seen this be a big thing for Shadow Priests. Shadow Priests are kind of on the back burner. Nobody's really paying much attention to them. They seem decent, but not really strong. So I'm wondering if season 2 or season 3 will be a lot better for them. Increases the chance for Shadowy Insight to trigger by 25% when consuming Shadowy Insight. Mind Blast deals 30% additional damage and generates 4 additional insanity. Devouring Plague damage increased by 15%, and every 4 casts of Devouring Plague increases the damage of your Shadowy Apparitions conjured within the next 10 seconds by 80%. That seems really fun to me. I really like the Shadowy Apparitions, Devouring Plague, and focusing around our dots and our instant Mind Blast damage. So season 2 honestly seems really cool. Season 1, Mind Blast increases the damage of next Devouring Plague by 12%, stacking up to 3 times. And Devouring Plague now increases your haste by 4% for 8 seconds. Fun 2-piece bonus, but not really that fun of a 4. I'm honestly leaning into season 2. I feel like Shadowy Insight's a really fun mechanic. It's similar to the Star Surge procs and previous expansions from Moonkin. And just Devouring Plague being stronger and then giving you more apparition damage is going to feel really good. So I'm personally leaning to season 2. I think season 2 Shadow, that's what I would vote for, is going to be a really good option. So let's jump into the next class here, as we got to be moving down the list. And I'm sure I'm going to forget one of them and cover it twice by accident or something. But we got Shaman, we got Resto, Enhance, and Elemental. I know right now for a fact, I don't know how any season's going to compete with the current Elemental Shaman set bonus. Is absolutely crazy. So probably leaning towards a season 3 vote for that one. But let's take a look at Resto, as that's what I'm currently spec'd. We've got the current one, which is Chain Heal, Healing Surge, and Healing Wave mark their initial target with Tidal Reservoir, causing them to receive 15% of all Riptide healing you deal for 15 seconds, which has been really good. Riptide's healing is increased by 25%. If Riptide is active on the same target as Tidal Reservoir, its heal over time effect has a 6% chance to create a new Riptide on a nearby ally. I've been really enjoying this set bonus, even though Resto Shaman's not that strong. I've been really enjoying this set bonus. It's been really fun. So I don't know if season 2 is going to compete. I already see Healing Rain, and I'm like, nope. When you cast Healing Rain, each ally with your Riptide on them is area healed by Tidewaters for 54k. Each ally healed by Tidewaters increases your healing done by 1% for 8 seconds and increases the healing of your next Healing Wave or Healing Surge by 10%. Your next chain healed by 2%. I hate this one. I'm not voting season 2 Resto Shaman. Season 1, while Healing Stream Totem is active, your chance to critically strike is increased by 10%. Your critical heals have a 215% increased effectiveness instead of the usual 200%. Kind of boring. I think this one's boring, and I don't want one around Healing Rain. I feel like this is an auto vote for season 3 for Resto Shaman. For Elemental, I think it's probably going to be the same thing. Primordial Wave also casts Ellie Blast at the target at 70% effectiveness and grants you all 3 Elemental Blast bonuses for 10 seconds. Lava Burst burns your target for 10% additional damage over 4 seconds, and after consuming Primordial Wave, your next 2 casts of Lava Burst to also hit up to 3 additional targets affected by your Flame Shock for 65% of the normal damage. Absolutely crazy set bonus. I don't know how season 2 or season 3 is going to compete. You're going to gain Stormkeeper every 50 seconds. Nobody cares. For 8 seconds after you consume Stormkeeper, your Lightning Bolt, Lava Burst, Ice Fury, and Frost Shock generate 50% more Maelstrom, and your Chain Lightning, Lava Beam, and Earthquake deal 20% increased critical strike damage. Blech. No, not season 2. Season 1, Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, and Lava Burst increase the damage of your next Earth Shock or Earthquake by 3%, stacking up to 3 times. Casting Earth Shock or Earthquake increases your mastery by 8%. Blech. I'm voting season 3, man. Those ones are boring. Season 3, Ellie all the way, dude. I don't know how you'd vote for these ones. They're so boring. Okay, Enhancement Shaman. Primordial Wave summons a Lightning Feral Spirit that increases your nature damage by 20%, and summoning a Feral Spirit reduces the cooldown of your Primordial Wave. Season 2, Sundering increases your mastery by 24%, and Sundering increases your physical and fire damage dealt by 20% for 15 seconds, and your next 2 Chain Lightning casts deal 20% increased damage, and refund 50% of Maelstrom weapon stacks consumed. Your Season 1, Storm Strike increases the damage of your next direct Fire, Frost, or Nature spell by 10% and causes it to generate 1 additional Maelstrom stack. Consuming Maelstrom weapon stacks increases your haste by 0.5% per stack. I'm kind of thinking the Sundering giving you more mastery is going to be really fun with Lava Lash. You know, the Season 3 one is like pretty straightforward. It's just basically flat out damage increase overall, but the Lava Lash build could be really fun, assuming they buff these to all be reasonably equal to each other. I'm leaning into Season 2 for enhancement. I really like the Lava Lash build. And Master is going to help you play into that a lot with the Sundering buff, and then obviously the 4 sets directly affecting that. So I would personally vote for Season 2 for enhancement. And that's it for Shaman. Let's jump into the next class. We've got the Warlock. Oh god, how is any set bonus going to compete with Destro Season 3? I don't know. I don't know how Season 2 or Season 1 are going to compete with it. Like, the Season 3 set bonuses overall have been pretty, you know, jumping off the page here. So we got Affliction Warlock first. Affliction Warlock, I don't really like this one because I don't like Soul Rot. But Soul Rot does 15% increase damage for 4 seconds. And Soul Rot grants you 3 Umbra Fire Kindlings, which increase the damage of your next Malefic Raptures by 50%, or your next Seed of Corruption by 60%. Additionally, Umbra Fire Kindling causes Malefic Rapture to extend the duration of your damage over time effects and Haunt. It's obviously a really powerful throughput one and pretty straightforward. But Season 2, Vile Taint and Phantom Singularity cooldown reduced by 5 seconds and 12. Ew. Vile Taint and Phantom Singularity damage increased by 60%, so more survivability, but enemies damaged by Phantom Singularity gain Infirmity for its duration, and enemies damaged by Vile Taint gain Infirmity for 10 seconds, increasing damage taken by 10%. I don't like Phantom Singularity either. Affliction Locks, what's going on with you guys, dude? Season 1, when Agony grants you a Soul Shard, you have a chance to gain a Cruel Inspiration, increasing your haste by 12%. Cruel Inspiration also grants 2 charges of Cruel Epiphany, up to 5 charges. Each charge of Cruel Epiphany increases the damage of your next Malefic Rapture or Seed of Corruption by 40%. So obviously, like, getting flat out stats is going to be really nice with this one for your overall damage, but I'm kind of thinking that Soul Rot is likely going to be the most competitive one. So like, I would like playing the Haunt build and cheesing with one shots and stuff like that, and this one might be the best one for that. But it's looking like Season 3 is probably going to be your strongest one overall for Affliction. Demonology, this one is consuming a demonic core applies a doom brand that explodes after 20 seconds, dealing 45,000 shadow damage to nearby enemies or 100,000 shadow damage to a single enemy. Hannah Gul'dan reduces the duration of your doom brands by 1 second per soul shard spent, and when doom brand is removed, you have a chance to summon a doom fiend that casts 5 doom bolt volleys before departing. Each doom bolt volley deals 30,000 shadow damage up to 4 enemies or 64,000 shadow damage to a single enemy. This is a really fun bonus, fits really nicely into the fantasy, and I don't have any clue how Season 2 and 1 are going to compete with this. I'm like automatically voting Season 3 already at this point. But Season 2, Demon Bolt deals 20% additional damage. Consuming a demonic core reduces the cooldown of Grimoire Felguard by 0.5 seconds. I honestly wonder if they should have brought back like Shadowlands set bonuses to try and compete with this stuff, because some of them are not really that competitive. Maybe it's probably too late for that type of stuff, but just a thought. Demon Bolt deals 20% additional damage. Consuming demonic core reduces the cooldown of Grimoire Felguard. That's honestly a pretty solid set bonus for single target at least. Grimoire Felguard damage increased by 20%. While Grimoire Felguard is active, all of your demons deal 20% additional damage. Okay, I mean, that's kind of competing. I'm going to be real. That one's kind of competing with Season 3. Just jumping off the page right away. Demon Bolt and Fellstorm damage increased by 20%. And Demon Bolt has a chance to make your next Hannah Gul'dan instant and deal 150% increased damage. I'm being honest. The Demo set bonuses are pretty competitive with each other. The Felguard one's probably really good single target. This one is like a mix of sustain damage. This is going to be more single target burst. And this is going to be more just like RNG overall AoE damage. So I'm thinking like, you probably want the single target one for competitive PvP, but this instant cast, Hannah Gul'dan is really jumping off to me after playing Demo and getting kicked a lot. I don't know, man. That's a tough vote. This is the first one that's actually really tough. You guys are going to have to decide, man. I don't play Demo enough. I don't want to make a decision for you that you're not going to want, but this is a really tough one to vote for. Destruction Warlock. This is the set bonus, probably like one of the best in the game. I don't know how anyone's going to compete with it, but bolts from Dimensional Rifts now deal 25% more damage, and Immolate Dot Ticks will have a chance to grant you one of these Dimensional Rifts to summon into the fight. Dimensional Rift can now summon a powerful Flame Rift, which blasts Searing Blast. So you just get Fire Rifts, proccing Rifts off your dots. Season 2, channel Demon Fire bolts, immolate and incinerate have a chance to fire an additional Demon Fire bolt. These bolts deal 50% increased damage to their main target. Demon Fire bolts increase your fire damage by 1% for 13 seconds, stacking up to 8 times. Getting a stack does not refresh the duration. Casting Demon Fire resets this effect. I don't really like the Season 2 one for Destro. Season 1, consuming Soul Shards has a chance to grant you Chaos Maelstrom, increasing your critical strike chance by 10%. Your critical strikes deal 208% increased damage instead of the usual 200. Dude, you gotta vote Season 3. Like, this has been the most crazy and powerful and fun set bonus. I think Destro is a pretty easy lock in there for voting Season 3. Let's take a look at the next class here. We've got on the list, we got a Mage. Let's jump in on the Mage and see what they've got to offer. This is the first one where I have not been liking the current Season 3 set bonus. So this might be one where voting for something else might be better. But the Frost Mage set bonuses weren't not jumping off enough that I even remember what they were. But this one was currently focused around Glacial Spike. You get 16% increased damage. It explodes and shatters a frozen target, dealing 15% of its damage to nearby enemies. Casting Glacial Spike has a 40% chance to trigger Brain Freeze. I personally don't like this one. I'm not even going to get it. That's how much I don't like it. So I'm not even going to get it. Season 2, Flurry and Ice Lance damage increased by 20%. Flurry causes an explosion on impact, dealing 35% of its damage to nearby enemies. Casting Ice Lance on a frozen target has a 10% chance to trigger Brain Freeze. I really liked this one. This was the Ice Lance build when I had a ton of fun with the AoE stun, the Snowdrift stun. I'm leaning in Season 2, man. Season 1, Ice Lance Frozen Orb damage increased by 10%. Consuming Fingers of Frost increases your spell damage. This one's really boring. This one's just a more boring version of this one, honestly. It seems worse and a more boring version. I'm voting Season 2 Frost Mage. I don't know about you, but I'm voting Season 2 Frost Mage. Fire Mage, when Power Blast, Flame Strike, Critical Strike, you gain Searing Rage, increasing your critical strike damage by 4%, stacking up to 20%. Activating Combustion increases the critical strike damage of Searing Rage by 150%, so just more crit damage overall. Phoenix Flames, Season 2, Phoenix Flames applies Charring Embers to all enemies at damage, increasing their damage taken from you by 5% for 12 seconds. When your direct damage spells hit an enemy affected by Charring Embers 20 times, the damage of your next 2 Phoenix Flames is increased by 200%, and they refund a charge on use. That seems really fun. Season 1, Pyroblast and Flame Strikes cast with Hot Streak deal 10% increased damage. Fire Blast, Phoenix Flames, and Fireball deal 10% increased damage, and their chance to critically strike is increased by 10%. I'm not gonna lie, all of these are pretty much just throughput. This one is just kind of cool. It stacks up to a certain point where you get this big combo of Phoenix Flames, but these are all just DPS throughputs. They're all DPS throughputs. There's not really I don't think there's a lot of interaction on them personally in terms of rotation. So I honestly don't even necessarily think that I care. And I don't know mathematically which one is the best. So you guys got to make up your mind with that one, but those ones don't seem that interesting. Arcane, I've seen a lot of positive feedback towards Season 3, so we'll have to see if Season 2 and 1 can compete with it. But Season 3 is consuming clear casting, grants spell damage by 2% for 20 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. And after consuming clear casting 3 times, your next Arcane Missiles consumes Arcane Battery, dealing 150% increased damage to your primary target and fires at up to 4 nearby enemies, dealing 100% increased damage. Arcane Missiles, most fun ability for Arcane Mages by far. Season 2, Arcane Surge increases spell damage by an additional 10%, and its duration is increased by 3 seconds. 4-step bonus, for every 24,000 mana spent on and during Arcane Surge, your spell damage is increased by 1% for 18 seconds. After Arcane Surge fades, stacking up to 25 times, mana regeneration is increased by 50% for this time. So this one's really focused around burst during Arcane Surge, which is probably really competitive in PvP, but it's not Arcane Missiles, bro. Season 1, for each Arcane Charge, Arcane Blast critical strike chance is increased by 3%. And Arcane Explosion critical strike chance increased by 3%. When Arcane Blast or Arcane Explosion critical strikes at least one target, the critical strike chance of your next Arcane Barrage is increased by 10%, stacking up to 4 times. I don't think the set bonus was strong enough to bring back that old Legion gameplay where you're spamming Arcane Explosion and Barrage. I don't remember it, at least from Season 1, doing that. If it was that, it would be a lot of fun. That was fun to do in Legion. I'm kind of leaning towards the Missile one being the most fun, but Arcane Surge might be the most competitive based on how arena gameplay, PvP stacking cooldowns has worked for so long. So this is a really tough one to vote for, honestly, because if they buff this one and make it like it was Legion where you're spamming Arcane Explosion and Barraging, I'd vote that one. Hard to say unless they talk about it moving forward, which I hope that they do, because it's really ambiguous, the fact that they didn't even list the set bonuses. But Mage seems like a really kind of mixed bag in terms of which ones to vote for. Now let's jump into Hunter. Hunter has had some of the most powerful set bonuses this season as well, so I don't know if Season 2 or 1 are going to compete with these ones, but Season 3 really crazy for things like Beast Mastery Hunter for sure. And we're looking at that one first. We got our little adventure guy. We got our little set bonuses here. Beast of Wrath just summons a Dire Beast for 15 seconds, and your most recently summoned Dire Beast now obeys your kill command and can benefit from Beast Cleave. Big AoE, especially during Call of the Wild, which has been really crazy. For Season 2, Cobra Shot kills command damage increased by 15%. Boring. Cobra Shot, kill command, and multi-shot reduce the cooldown of Beast of Wrath by 2 seconds. That's pretty good, but kind of boring. Kill command damage increased by 10% and has a 10% chance to reset the cooldown on Barb Shot. And Barb Shot damage increased by 5%. And Barb Shot increases the damage of your next kill command by 20%. So the weave in between Barb Shot and kill command being more effective. With Call of the Wild the way that it is, I don't know how those other two set bonuses are going to compete with this one. And it's just been really good so far. This one's going to be more single target weaving. Honestly, Season 1 and 2 seem really similar to each other. One just focuses around Beast of Wrath. The other one focuses only on your main rotation abilities. You probably, Season 2 with cooldown reduction on Beast of Wrath could be really good, but again, it's nerfed in PvP. I'm probably leaning to Season 3 being the vote here for Beast Mastery Hunter, but of course, you guys need to make up your own minds as well. Don't vote just because I say something. I'm just trying to keep you guys informed to make the best decision for yourself. For Marksmanship Hunter Season 3, Rapid Fire deals 20% additional damage. Trick shots cause Rapid Fire to launch a volley for 6 seconds, dealing 100% of normal damage. And every 10 focus you spend has a 3% chance to reset the cooldown of Rapid Fire and cause your next Rapid Fire to shoot 100% additional shots. Really powerful. Really powerful. A Rapid Fire, go pew pew, really fun. Season 2, Arcane Shot, Multi-Shot, deal 10% increased damage and have an 8% chance to grant the Death Blow effect. Kill Shot deals 15% increased damage and reduces the cooldown of Aim Shot and Rapid Fire by 1.5 seconds. So some cooldown reduction. A lot of fun, fantasy around these abilities so far. It's kind of tough for me to decide personally. And then Season 1, Arcane Shot, Multi-Shot, Critical Strikes cause your next aim shot to cause the target to bleed for 40% of the damage dealt over 6 seconds. And ranged auto attacks have a 15% chance to increase the critical strike chance of your next Arcane Shot or Multi-Shot. Season 1 is kind of meh. I think it's kind of a vote here between Season 1 and 2, or Season 2 and 3. The Rapid Fire Pew Pew has just been really good, but this Kill Shot damage and reduced cooldown of an aim shot Rapid Fire could be fun as well. I'm probably leaning, though, towards Season 3 being my vote for this one, and I do play Marksman quite a bit. Survival Hunter, this one's all been about Fury of the Eagle in Season 3. So Fury of the Eagle increases you and your pet's damage, you and your pet's critical strike chance, by 15%, and your critical damage dealt by 15%. Fury of the Eagle throws a free Wildfire Bomb at your current target at 100% effectiveness, causing your next Wildfire Bomb to not incur a cooldown, increases the damage Wildfire Bomb deals to your primary target by 40%. I don't know how any of the set bonuses are going to compete with this. Is crazy AoE. It's been really strong. Season 2, Wildfire Bomb damage increased by 10%, and throwing a Wildfire Bomb increases the damage of your next kill command by 40%. Every 30 focus spent reduces the cooldown of Wildfire Bomb by 1 second. So more cooldown reduction towards Wildfire Bomb, but I think this one's probably going to be better. Season 1, Rapid Fire, Carve, and Butchery damage increased by 12%. Really boring, just a flat damage increase. Raptor Strike, Carve, and Butchery have a 20% chance to make your next Raptor Strike, Carve, or Butchery cost 10 less focus and deal 40% increased damage. Yeah, I'm leaning to Season 3. I think Season 3 is probably the most fun one for survival here. And that's going to be the Hunter. Let's jump into the next class. We got the Death Knight. Death Knight's got a lot of interesting set bonuses throughout the seasons. This one is not, I think, immediately at least jumping out to me as one particular season, just dominating all of the rest of them and just being like a clear winner in that regard. But the set bonuses here: Apocalypse summons an additional Magus of the Dead, more Necromancer gameplay, Magus of the Dead Shadow Bolts now AoE volley, and each rune you spend increases the duration of your active Magi by a half second, and your Magi will now also cast amplified damage, increasing the damage you deal. So really heavy Necromancer gameplay. Season 3 has been really fun. I like that set bonus a lot, but let's see what Season 2 has to offer. Death Coil and Epidemic damage increased by 10%. Casting Death Coil and Epidemic grants a stack of Master of Death up to 20. Dark Transformation consumes Master of Death and grants a 1% mastery for each stack for 25 seconds. That's really good for cooldown stacking. Army of the Dead grants 20 stacks of Master of Death. When Death Coil or Epidemic consumes Sudden Doom, gain 1 extra stack of Master of Death and 10% mastery. I could see this one competing, especially if they buff them to make them the same numerically. Bursting, Season 1, Bursting a Festering Wound grants you Ghoul Vial Infusion, increasing their damage by 25% and haste by 10%. Your primary Ghoul's attacks have an 8% chance to increase your damage and haste by 8%, and this chance is increased to 15% during your Vial Infusion. Not a big fan between just like the little ghoul pet. I think this like mastery stacking effect or the Necromancer are probably going to be more competitive. I'm leaning to the Necromancer personally, having played Death Knight a little bit, being more fun. So I would personally vote for Season 3, but I could see Season 2 being a competitive option. For Frost, this is the Chill Streak set bonus. Chill Streak's range increased by 4 yards and can bounce off yourself. Each time Chill Streak bounces, your damage is increased by 4% for 12 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Chill Streak can bounce 3 additional times, and each time it bounces, you have a 35% chance to gain a rune. Reduce Chill Streak cooldown by 5 seconds, or reduce the cooldown cooldown of Empower Rune Weapon by 6 seconds. Season 2, Howling Blast damage increased by 10%. Consuming Rime increases the damage of your next Frostworm's Fury by 4%, stacking up to 10 times. Pillar of Frost calls Frostworm's Fury at 25% effectiveness, but won't freeze enemies. Frostworm's Fury causes enemies to take 20% increased damage for critical strikes for 12 seconds. That's a really powerful bonus for one-shotting. So if they don't rework Frost DK or do anything, that seems really strong. Season 1, Obliterate and Frost Scythe. Ew, Frost Scythe. Critical strike damage is increased by 10%. Obliterate and Frost Scythe have a 15% chance not to consume Killing Machine. I'm thinking Season 2 could be the strongest in PvP for how Frost is played, but Season 3 Chill Streak, Chill Streak is a pretty fun ability, but I'm thinking Season 2 for Frost DK, honestly, is what I would vote. For Blood DK, we've got Consuming Runic Power has a chance to cause your next Heart Strike to apply Ashen Decay, reducing damage dealt to you by 10% and increasing your damage dealt by afflicted targets by 20%. Soul Reaper's Execute damage and Abomination Limb damage applies Ashen Decay to enemy targets, and Heart Strike and Blood Boil's direct damage extends Ashen Decay. Now, if we hate tanks in PvP, we should vote for their worst set bonus so they get the worst option when it comes to PvP. This one seems really good. Season 2, Heart Strike and Blood Boil deal 10% increased damage and have a 5% chance to grant Vampiric Blood for 5 seconds. When you gain Vampiric Blood, you are infused with Vampiric Strength, granting you 10% strength for 5 seconds. Your Heart Strike and Blood Boil extend the duration of your Vampiric Strike by a half a second. Okay, just flat out tankiness for yourself. Season 1, when a Bone Shield charge is consumed, you have a 20% chance to generate 1 rune. After 10 Bone Shield charges are consumed, gain 10% damage and haste. If we don't like Blood DKs, we're voting Season 1. If we like them, I think we're probably voting Season 3. This just seems like way more words and way more power overall for Blood, and that concludes the Death Knight. So let's look at the next class, which is going to be the Paladin, and I think we're coming down to like the last couple of classes here. I know this has been quite a long video, so thanks for sticking through it here, or if you've just been jumping around to whichever class that you were most interested in checking out. This is mostly just to go back and recap on what each of the set bonuses were, have some fun looking at the bonuses, and try and come up with a good way to decide. So Ret Paladins, Expurgation. I think Ret's probably Season 2 if I remember right. Expurgation lasts an additional 3 seconds and deals 30% increased damage. Casting Judgment or Divine Toll on a target with Expurgation causes Wrathful Sanction, damaging the target for 18,000 holy damage and resonating 9,000 damage up to 4 enemies. Wrathful Sanction grants you Echoes of Wrath, causing your next Templar's Verdict or Divine Storm to deal damage a second time at 25% effectiveness. This does not consume Judgment. Meh. Season 2, Judgment and Hammer of Wrath deal 10% increased damage and 15% increased critical strike damage. Hammer of Wrath applies Judgment to the target. This was so broken. You got to vote Season 2 for Ret. I feel like I don't even need to read the rest. It was so broken. Judgment increases the damage enemies take from your holy power spenders by an additional 15%. Hammer of Wrath now hits 4 nearby targets for 20% of its damage. This is also when Ret's got their rework and they were the most OP. Season 1, Judgment, Blade of Justice, Wake of Ashes increase damage by 15%. Boring. Your damaging holy power abilities have 10% more damage. Boring. This is a Season 2 vote for Ret. I think pretty obviously there. For Holy, honestly, I think you're going to vote Season 3 because of the Purge protection, but when Glimmer of Light dissipates or is refreshed, it creates a holy reverberation on the target, which on its target to heal an ally for 15,000 damage, or damage an enemy, for 13,000. Multiple holy reverberations may overlap up to 6 times. Daybreak now increases haste by 25% for 6 seconds. The cooldown is reduced. Unfortunately, I like Daybreak. I don't know how powerful that is personally, but the Purge protection has been crazy for holy in PvP. For Season 2, we got Holy Shock critical strike heals for 60% more and reduces the cooldown of your Light's Hammer by 2 seconds or Holy Prism by 1. Light's Hammer heals 100% more frequently and generates 1 holy power every 4 seconds. Holy Prism's healing is increased by 80% and it generates 1 holy power if cast on an enemy target. I'm not really leaning into that one too much. Season 1, Holy Shock increases the chance for your spells to critically strike by 5%. That's boring. Holy Light, Flash of Light, Light of Dawn, Word of Glory, and Bestow Faith healing increased by 6%. The critical strike effectiveness increase the damage and healing of your next Holy Shock by 20%. That's honestly kind of boring. I think the Purge protection is probably going to be the strongest. I would personally vote for Season 3 when it comes to Holy. Prop Paladins, again, we're probably going to want to vote for the worst one if we don't want them doing well in PvP. But for Season 3, Judgment grants a stack of Sanctification, reducing your damage taken by 2% per stack. Upon reaching 5 stacks, your next cast of Consecration is empowered, increasing its damage and healing by 200% and its radius by 30%. Sanctification stacks are reset when your Empowered Consecration ends. While you are within an Empowered Consecration, your abilities have a chance to deal 40% damage or healing as fire. Season 2, Avenger's Shield causes targets to be struck to burn with Heartfire, dealing an additional 20% of the damage dealt over 5 seconds. Heartfire heals you for 100% of the damage it deals. Judgment and critical strikes apply Heartfire and can trigger Grand Crusader. And Season 1, Avenger's Shield grants you and your closest ally of the Light, increasing versatility. Meh. Crusader Strike increases your parry by 5%. Meh. And extends the duration of your Ally of Light by 1 second. So lots of words in this one. Consecration gameplay, if you want that. Seems like Season 3 is the go-to. Whereas Season 2 is going to be more like sustain oriented around Captain Avenger and your Avenger's Shield. So I don't play Prot enough to really dedicate my vote to this, but the Captain Avenger seems like more fun, fantasy to me personally than the other options here for Prot. We covered Holy, we covered Prot, we covered Red. We got all the ones for Paladin. We're jumping into the next class. What is going to be the next class? It is going to be the Evoker, which actually only has 2 specializations, so shouldn't take nearly as long, but it had some crazy powerful ones from previous seasons that could definitely be important in looking into in terms of trying to make a vote here on which ones are the most powerful. So for Devastation, we currently have while Dragon Rage is active, you gain Emerald Trance every 6 seconds, increasing your damage by 5%, stacking up to 5 times. When Dragon Rage ends, Emerald Trance persists for 5 seconds per stack and grants you Essence Burst every 5 seconds. So Essence Burst really powerful in PvP. Dragon Rage, a really important cooldown in PvP, so Season 3 seeming pretty strong initially. Season 2, Disintegrate and Pyre pierce enemies with obsidian shards, dealing 12% of the damage as volcanic damage over 8 seconds. Not that strong. Empower spells deal 8% increased damage and cause your obsidian shards to blaze with power, dealing 200% more damage for 5 seconds. During Dragon Rage, shards always blaze with power. Season 1, Empower spells have a 5% increased chance to critically strike, and also increase your critical strike chance by 5%. Empowered spells have a 25% chance to grant you 6 seconds of Fury of the Aspects without causing exhaustion. So procking Bloodlust. So this one's the first one, like, that's kind of fun. Now we got like one that's just like straight throughput versus one that's kind of fun. Procking a Bloodlust is pretty fun. I'm kind of leaning competitively. You vote for Season 3, but the procking Bloodlust could be fun. So this one, Season 1 or 3, I think could be decent options for Devastation. And what am I saying about Evoker having 2 specs? It got 3 in this expansion, and now I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that was a spec. Here we go. Let's look at Season 2. For Season 2, we've got Empower spells casting up to 3 Living Flames at enemies or allies struck at 50% effectiveness. That's pretty good. Living Flame. I just respec Preservation. I'm getting tired with how long this video has been going. You are looking at Preservation. What am I saying? Preservation. Empower spells cast up to 3 Living Flames at enemies or allies struck at 50% effectiveness. Living Flame has a chance to apply Echo at 70% effectiveness on allies healed or nearby allies who don't already have Echo. So just a lot of throughput. 2-piece here. Spirit Bloom applies a hot, kind of meh, but Dream Breath healing increased by 15% is really powerful. After casting 4 Empower spells, gain Essence Burst immediately and another 3 seconds later. Season 1, Empower spells increase Reversion's healing by 35% for 6 seconds, and Reversion healing has a chance to cause your next Living Flame to cast instantly and deal 20% increased healing or damage. This was the most fun set buffs for Preservation. I'm voting Season 1 for this one. Those instant proc Living Flames were really fun, really powerful. I think that's an easy Season 1 vote, at least from me here, for Preservation. And Augmentation. Season 3, we got every third prescience lasts 100% longer. Casting prescience enhances your next eruption with smaller fissures for each prescience you have active, each dealing 20,000 damage and extending Ebon Might. Season 2, Ebon Might increases the damage for your Empower spells by 30%, and Ebon Might increases allies' primary stat by an additional 1%. So I'm thinking if PvEers are voting for this, they're voting for this because 1% primary stat to everybody is going to be way better than any other option that you could possibly give in a group and being the support spec. So no matter what I'm going to tell you what I think you should vote for, I think Season 2 is probably going to be what's voted for. Season 1, Blistering Scales increases armor by an additional 10% of your own, and your damage done is just increased by 8%. So I think this one was just thrown together because it wasn't in the game yet. I'm thinking everybody's going to vote Season 2 here for Augmentation, and that does conclude the Evoker. Let's jump into the next class, and I should have been logged out in a city. I don't really know why I'm not. I think we still got Monk, and I think we still got Rogue to cover here, and Rogue received a rework, so how its set bonuses work from Season 1 and 2 lobbed into the new reworked versions could actually be pretty interesting for them. But let's look at the next class on the list, which is going to be Monk in this case, which we've got Brewmaster, Mistweaver, and Windwalker. Now, Windwalker's been really strong right now, so I'm wondering if there's anything that's really going to be competing with that. But let's take a look at what we're logged in here as. We're Brewmaster. Season 3, Breath of Fire deals 40% additional or damage as Shadow Flame and causes you to heal for 50% of the fire damage you deal. Your attacks against targets afflicted by your Breath of Fire have a chance to deal 15% extra damage as Shadow Flame, and each Celestial Brew also grants a stagger absorb for 100% of the Shadow Flame damage you have dealt, causing damage delayed by stagger to be instead prevented. For Season 2, Blackout Kick damage increased by 20%. You have a 10% chance to not reset your Elusive Brawler stacks on successful dodge. Rising Sun Kick grants a stack of Elusive Brawler, and when you dodge, the damage and critical strike chance of your next Spinning Crane Kick or Rising Sun Kick is increased by 5%, stacking up to 5 times. And for Season 1, hitting an enemy with Tiger Palm or Spinning Crane Kick grants Brewmaster's Rhythm, increasing damage dealt and reducing damage taken by 1%, stacking up to 4 times. For each stack of Brewmaster's Rhythm, Purifying Brew clears 3% more of your damage delayed with stagger. Now, I've got very limited experience on Brewmaster. You can see my monk's not even max level, so I don't really want to like say 100% what I would vote for here personally, but Breath of Fire seems like one of the most fun spells for the class. Just breathing fire on people. So I'm kind of leaning towards Season 3, but Brewmasters, let me know in the comments down below what you're leaning to. Mistweaver Monk, we got Renewing Mist, applies Chi Harmony to its initial target, increasing their healing taken from you by 50% for 8 seconds, and 20% of all healing you do to targets with Chi Harmony is stored and then dispersed evenly among your allies with Renewing Mist when Chi Harmony fades or is refreshed. Season 2, Renewing Mist, Soothing Mist, and Enveloping Mist, healing increased by 12%. Really boring but strong. Drinking a tea increases the healing of your Vivify and Renewing Mists for 40% for 6 seconds. Just really powerful throughput overall. Healing from, this is Season 1, healing from your Enveloping Mist, Essence Font and Vivify is increased by 10% on targets with your Renewing Mist. Essence Font and Vivify healing are increased by 10%, and your Renewing Mist are on targets healed by Essence Font are extended by 1 second. I'm kind of leaning towards Season 2 here, just in terms of they're all pretty much just like all throughput oriented. Season 2 is focusing around like a lot of the spells you use mainly in PvP, so I would personally lean towards Season 2. I think at this point, although Season 3, you know, I don't think you're going to go wrong with Season 3 is generally really strong for all specs, but Windwalker Monk, free Spinning Crane Kicks grant Blackout Reinforcement, increasing the damage of your next Blackout Kick by 250%. Melee abilities have a chance to grant Blackout Reinforcement. Blackout Reinforcement empowered Blackout Kicks reduce the cooldown of Fist of Fury, Rising Sun Kick, Strike of the Windlord, and Whirling Dragon Punch by 3 seconds. Damage of Fist of Fury, Rising Sun Kick, Strike of the Windlord, and Whirling Dragon Punch have also been increased by 4%. This is one of the best set bonuses in the game. It's getting the 500,000 Blackout Kicks. I don't know how Season 2 or Season 1 are competing with it. Season 2, Rising Sun Kick deals 5% increased damage and goes Nova, dealing 1,700 Shadow Flame damage to all enemies within 8 yards. Fist of Fury deals 20% increased damage to the primary target and increases Shadow Flame Nova damage you deal to all targets by 50%. I don't think this is competing with this one. This one's a little more AoE oriented though, so PvEers may vote for that one. Season 1, Fist of Fury increases the damage dealt by your next 2 Rising Sun Kicks or Spinning Crane Kicks by 30%. And Fist of Fury now instead enhances your next 3 Rising Sun Kicks or Spinning Crane Kicks, and enhanced kicks increase the damage of your next Fist of Fury by 5%, stacking up to 3 times. So a lot of stacking modifiers, but Season 3 is probably the king in terms of stacking modifiers. I'm thinking Season 3 is probably going to be the vote here for Windwalker. And now I think finally we've got the Rogue, which I've got here on my second account. And I'll be just logging out just to make sure that we're not forgetting a class or something here in this video, because that would be terribly tragic. But I think it's just the Rogue that we've got left for the set bonuses. So I hope that this video has been helpful so far in terms of looking at which one for your class, or maybe looking at other classes and what could be strong for them. Things like the Ret Paladin one are definitely jumping out to me here. So we are Subtlety. And your current Season 3, using Eviscerate, Rupture, or Black Powder has a chance to summon a Shadow Clone to echo your finishing move for 70% additional shadow damage. Your Shadow Clones deal 20% increased damage to all attacks and grant you 2 combo points per clone when summoned. Your set bonuses from Season 2, Shadow Dance grants you Symbols of Death and extends the duration of Rupture by 4 seconds, and I'm currently wearing that from last season, so I'm going to imagine that that was probably really strong. Getting automatic Symbols of Death every dance is probably the most powerful thing Subtlety could ever get, so I'm thinking this is probably going to be what's voted for. The 4-piece with Symbols of Death increases critical strike damage of Eviscerate and Black Powder by 40%, which I don't remember if Rogues were running, but you may run now that versatility is going to be so high with how high stats are. But Season 2 is looking really good for Subtlety. For Season 1, Eviscerate and Black Powder increase the damage and critical strike chance of your next Gloomblade, Shadow Strike, or Shuriken Storm by 2% per combo point spent. Gloomblade, Shadow Strike, and Shuriken Storm critical strikes increase the damage of your Eviscerate, Eviscerate and Rupture by 12%, and the damage of your Black Powder by 8%. So just again, that kind of like mixing back and forth of spells. I'm thinking Season 2 though is probably going to be the best option to vote for Subtlety. For Outlaw Rogue, we've got Sinister Strike has an additional 10% chance of striking an additional time. Super fun, just multi-striking. Roll to Bones, additional refreshes, a random Roll to Bones combat enhancement enhancement buff you currently possess. So, easier to get a lot of buff stacks. For Season 2, damage you inflict applies Soul Rip, dealing 5% of all the damage you deal as physical damage over 8 seconds. And Between the Eyes unleashes all of your Soul Rips, dealing 200% of all remaining damage and granting 5% agility. For Season 1, Dispatch increases the damage of your next Sinister Strike or Ambush by 8% per combo point spent. And your 4-piece half-cost uses of Pistol Shot grant by Sinister Strike increase the damage of your next Dispatch by 25%. So a little bit of that mixing back and forth in terms of your rotation. The roll bones and extra auto attacks seems more fun to me personally. I would probably be voting for Season 3, at least for Outlaw, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. For Assassination, the final spec, each 10 energy you spend grants Nature's Blight, granting 1% attack speed and 1% nature damage for 6 seconds. Multiple instances of Nature's Blight may overlap, up to 12. Your 4-piece bonus, Envenom, additionally empowers itself, causing an Envenomous Explosion, dealing 11,000 nature damage to all nearby enemies. When cast with Envenom active, deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. If an Envenomous Explosion deals damage to a single target, it's increased by 30%. So really good AoE and honestly decent single target throughput. A lot of focus on poison explosions, which is really fun as Assassination. For Season 2, Rupture deals an additional 40% damage as nature, and Crimson Tempest deals an additional 20% damage as nature. And when Deathmark expires, nature damage you deal is increased by 40% for 30 seconds. Honestly, that seems really fun. Season 1, Envenom also increases your weapon's poison damage by 20%, and when your weapon poisons deal direct damage, you have a 50% chance to gain Septic Wounds, increasing all your bleed damage by 4% for 8 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. That could be really fun for some burst damage. Honestly, Assassination, it's a really tough sell for me in terms of which one looks like the most fun. Honestly, this Rupture damage throughput and then Deathmark expiring, it's kind of basic and boring, but gives you more sustained damage overall. Whereas the Season 1 could be really fun for comboing a really big Deathmark with those bleed stacks. So I'm going to leave that one up to you. I don't really spend a lot of time playing Assassination, so it's going to be one that I'm likely not going to be voting on because I don't want to pick something that I'm probably not going to spend a huge amount of time on. Although I do want to explore it a little bit. I don't want to be like the determining factor or arbiter for that, but these all seem pretty fun in their own different ways for Assassination. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this coverage of the specializations and which set bonuses are available to vote for. If you did, make sure to thumbs up, comment down below with your thoughts, and subscribe. Your support is greatly appreciated. So thank you for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.